Hey everybody, Brian here from quantlabs.net. Wanted to research CFDs, contract for difference, what they are. I'm just going to read it right off this screen. The idea is to get engagement going. CFD leverage financial instrument, which allows you to speculate in price movements of different markets, such as indices, commodities, currencies, shares, treasury, all that stuff. Unlike traditional, you don't need a large amount of capital to start trading. CFDs are trading on margin similar to Forex. CFDs can be used to speculate on up and down movements as to hedge or diversify your equity of commodity portfolio without significant collateral requirement and lot sizes associated with classic futures trading. Although price of CFD usually reflects the price of the underlying asset, this isn't necessarily the case. Please be advised that you're not buying or getting any ownership of the underlying asset itself. Okay, so this is obviously from Dukas Copy, the broker I want to go with. These guys are out of Switzerland. I'll probably get most likely end up in their European division, which is in Latvia or Estonia. Yes, that is sounds weird, but when you factor in all the available retail forex brokers out there, these guys are the cleanest shirt out of the 30 bucks. Unfortunately, so now we look at so Dukas Copy is not available to Americans. I don't think Dukas Copy is not allowed in the U.S. It's just more like they, from a marketing perspective, have not entered into the U.S. They used to be through this company called DFDD, I believe. But anyways, back to CFDs. This is the reason why CFDs are banned in the U.S. Nothing to do with that they may not be bad assets, but it's more from an industry point of view. So again, I'm going to read this out. Okay, so CFDs are much safer, huh? It's right here. It is an interesting point. Due to restrictions by the SEC on over-the-counter financial instruments, this kind of odd given they rule trading in many markets in global marketplace now, replace much of the need to trade options for leverage. So in part, and this is the key here, it's part to protect the options market revenue in the USA, I guess, and protect them from these evil derivatives that will be the end of the world. CDOs are much safer. Given the current overreaction on regulation and trading in the US, it's not expected CFDs will get the green light for these leveraged, provided the potential to stuff up the spectacular fashion if you get it wrong, as in futures. So why aren't they available for trading? Main reason is not available U.S. traders because it is against security law. Over-the-counter instruments such as CFDs heavily regulate through legislation like the Dodd-Frank and enforced by the SEC. This power was granted under Title 7, was it, of the Act when CFDs were defined as either a swap or securities-based security swap. Will they ever be allowed? Who have a very strong lobby. There are so private client has to trade product traded on exchange. U.S. regulatory regime includes availability of CFDs. They do not allow CFDs, and the U.S. will continue draining liquidity and volume as U.S. equity trading moves to more favorable centers. For instance, Goldman U.S. equity CFDs to some CFD providers out of London, and this is where I think is one of the providers to Dukas Copy. I'll show that in a minute. CFDs out of London, but cannot do the same for their U.S. clients in the States. This is when U.S. prides itself on its capitalistic outlook. And don't forget that there's the day trading pattern rule, PDT, which is, again, you can't even do automated trading unless you got $20,000 in a trading account. So pattern day trader, you cannot basically trade systematically, that's probably a better way. Unless you, I believe it's 20 grand or 25 grand, and this is for the States. Uh, yeah, you deposit into your account, and no broker will allow you to do that unless you have 25 grand in your account. Okay? So, continuing, uh, blah, blah, blah. I'll let you read this, but I find this one very interesting. U.S. residents are not permitted to do CFD trading, but currently I'm in Mexico and have a temporary residence card, green card. Could I do CFD trading? Boy, you Americans have got it screwed. If you're a U.S. citizen or paying U.S. tax at all, then most providers won't be able to accept you as a client. However, if you're paying tax solely in Mexico, this might be fine with some brokers. As such, if you are currently residing in Mexico, you will be able to trade CFDs with some brokers. But if you're moving back to the U.S. or your main residence is in the U.S., you won't be able to trade them. And this is the U.S. is the freest country in the world. Some providers like CMC don't accept clients from Mexico. Most providers won't offer accounts to citizens nor residents of the U.S. due to regulatory reasons. So there you go. That's why CFDs are banned. So let's go back to Duca's copy, see what they said. So there was the providers. Let me just see. Let's see here. Yeah, because these are your providers that are provided into the CFD market that I'm understanding that Duca's copy owns and operates, but they have like a wholesale rate that they pay out to their providers, and I'm going to assume that Goldman Sachs would be one of them, which would make sense. So overall, this is why CFDs are banned, not because they're not safe. I don't think they are, but it's still, you can still kind of do sort of futures trading and hopefully get the same behavior out of your underlying asset that you want to trade through CFDs because they're a lot lower priced. So that's the assumption I'm taking, but for Americans, it's a problem. And the hope I have with these CFDs with Duca's copy is that they are liquid and they're high volume, so you can actually trade them no different than for their forex product. I've played around with the oil, this one, and it was pretty active. So I'm assuming some of these CFDs are fairly liquid, and you can play around with them and see how you can trade them through Duca's copy. But once again, I'm sorry to say that Americans, or even though anybody residing there and paying the IRS, you won't be able to do it because you have regulatory constraints. So I don't make the rules, but I'm not affected by this. But just as a caveat for some of you, now you know why. I'm very interested to see if anybody's actually trading CFDs, if they can let me know if they are doable or not in terms of you can trade them or not, because you don't hear a lot of people talk about them. But I would be very interested to see what they're about. Let me know. Talk to you later.